I can't hear you guys real well. I can hear Susan very well, but I can't hear Michelle and I can't really hear Elodia.
Okay, you can hear me now.
I can hear you now.
Present. It helps to unmute.
Oh, that's why. Okay, I was like, wow, I can hear Susan very clearly.
Present.
Here.
Present.
I don't know if she called my name, but I'm here.
Yes, she did.
Okay.
All right, it is recommended the governing board approve the agenda as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, report on the parent survey. Dr. Johnson.
All right, thank you, President Anderson. So we were able to have a follow-up survey to the question about the options that we have for reopening school. And let's see. So the report or the survey itself, are we still bringing that up? The presentation? And there it is. All right, very good. So we advertised on Facebook, and of course we posted on our website, and we sent out school messenger to all of the contact information that we have for parents, and we had the schools reach out and contact parents as well. So we did quite a bit to reach out to parents to make them aware of the survey and to give them the opportunity to participate. And we had relatively good participation. Across the board, we had a little over 2,500 parents responded, and that represents about 4,000 students, which is a little over half of our peak enrollment last year. So a good number of folks participated and gave us their feedback, their opinions, their preferences for reopening school for next year. Now, of course, we wanted to look and see what was the response rate school by school, and it varied quite a bit. Of course, you see the little bar there, the little orange or yellowish orange bar, 47 folks. That's not surprising because that is Estrella Foothills Global Academy, and it actually represents a very large proportion of the people who are enrolled at that school. So they, on a percentage basis, they actually had one of the highest response rates. A couple of the other schools, though, were low, relatively speaking, including Cheatham and MC Cash. On the other end, both the Paseo Point and Vista had a relatively high number of respondents. And the other schools, the other four schools were just over 300, or Rogers Ranch was close to 350. So those four were in that range. But then we also looked at, well, what about respondents by grade level? Because do the responses represent, lower grades or upper grades, or where does that fall? So we looked at that, and we see that the response rate on a per grade level is actually a fairly expected rate across the board. Preschool, of course, is low because our preschool program has fewer participants. Kindergarten would be our incoming kindergarten students, and so you would also expect that to be a little bit low because not everybody's gotten registered and ready to rock and roll on that yet. And then the highest is first grade, and then it tapers off just a little bit as it moves up in the grade levels, which again is something that would not be unexpected. So the questionnaire asked parents to rank their preference of 3 options, and those options included full online instruction, so students would be in school in their classroom every day, all day, a regular school day. The next option would be a full, I said that wrong. The online is not at school at all. That's learning at home using technology. The full in-person is what I described earlier. That's in school every day, just as a normal schedule. And then a hybrid model. And the hybrid model, as we research different models that are out there, decided to propose one or at least research the interest in one that would be a week on, week off. And there's several reasons why we chose that particular hybrid model to float out to the community. I will share that that there are a lot of different opinions about what a hybrid model should be. Some of the folks that responded to the survey gave us some suggestions or ideas about what they thought a hybrid should be. For example, there was a suggestion that we might do a half day and a half day. So some kids would come in the morning, some kids would come in the afternoon. Of course, there's some specific challenges with that concept. One is transportation, simply getting the kids to and from school in two different groups of students would be impractical for our transportation department. The other would be a need to completely sanitize the facility between the morning and the afternoon group. So for those and other reasons, that type of a concept was not put forward. Another option, I think some people have heard that maybe some other school districts are doing something like this, where they have a couple of days in school and then they have a day off and they have another couple of days in school, with the idea that this so-called deep cleaning occurs on that day in between. Deep cleaning is actually a term that has become misused. Deep cleaning in the industry really refers to the cleaning that takes place usually over the summer, when we get all of the stains out of the carpet, we get into the back of the cubbies and get the dust that's collected for a year back there. It's really about dirt and getting the dirt out of the cracks and the crevices and doing that thorough deep cleaning. Sanitation or disinfection is something else. And so those terms, I think, have been confusing because they've been used interchangeably. But really what needs to happen in order to keep students safe and healthy is disinfection. And that's the term that we use. And here in Levine, we would be doing that every single evening. So we wouldn't need to have school off for a day or wait until a weekend in order to disinfect our schools. But it would happen every single night after school. So anyway, those were some things that were brought up in response to the survey, and I just wanted to share a little bit of background. So overall, big picture results. Well, it was interesting that basically it was evenly split. For all intents and purposes, looking at the fact that there's always statistical variation in results. The results really came back very, very even, with a third for each of those three options, for the hybrid, for the in-person, and for the online. The question comes up, well, was it different from school to school? And the answer is that, yeah, actually there were some very significant differences from one school to another. But if you think back to the graph that showed the response rate, you'll remember. So here we see that Levine School and MC Cash School, very high in terms of online. But those are also a couple of schools that had lower response rates. And of course, the lower response rate you get, the less accuracy you have in terms of predicting what the entire population of the school or the entire group of parents that have students at a particular school, what their opinion might be. And in fact, you also see that Cheatham, which was a low response rate school, had a lot of variation in the responses. EFGA, of course, is again a very unique, standalone kind of its own animal out there. But if you look at the schools that did have the higher response rates, like Vista, Paseo Point, Rogers Ranch, the choice of options is very, very consistent. Now, we also looked at it by grade level, and I think that this data, and as you'll remember, the response rate by grade level was more even across the board, not as up and down as the school level data. So if you look at this information by grade level, you do see some very distinct trends or patterns here. For example, the hybrid model starts out with a very relatively low interest in preschool and kindergarten and gradually climbs up to a peak at 6th grade and then tails off again. Conversely, the in-person option was almost the opposite of that. Very, very high, relatively speaking, at preschool, and then tapering down until you get to the middle grade schools where it kind of flattens out. The other thing I think is interesting is that the online, with the exception of a couple of spots where it may have just been a fluke, again, an anomaly, was really actually very consistent all the way across all grade levels. So parents were also asked, after they were asked which options they preferred, they were also asked, oh, what's your second choice? And again, the same three choices were provided. And the result showed that, wow, the great number of folks said, well, the hybrid would be my second choice. But as you consider the situation, you begin to realize why that would be. The fact of the matter is you have two very different approaches. One, all online, the other completely in school. And both of those groups tend to feel fairly passionate and strongly about those choices. And so when asked what your second choice is, if they're going to move to a different choice, they're not going to move any farther away from their original choice than they had to. So the hybrid was the natural gravity for people to move from both those previous choices into the hybrid. But when we look at it more in depth and look at it, by group, we say, okay, well, what about parents that selected hybrid as their first choice? What was their second choice? Well, a few, 7%, said, you know what? I want hybrid no matter what. I don't want to consider another choice. So my not only my first choice is hybrid, but my second choice is hybrid as well. But then after that, it's split with the larger group, over half, going to online or indicating they prefer online, with a fairly substantial number, not quite 40%, indicating in person. But it did split, between those two options mostly. On the other hand, when we look at what the second choice was for people who their first choice was in person, 21% said, no, I'm not going to a second choice. I said in person, I meant in person. And so in person was not only their first choice, but it was their second choice as well. And very few of those folks, as would be anticipated, moved all the way over to full online. But the biggest group of them, 74%, probably folks that may not have considered that they even had the option of selecting the same option for both their first and second choices, did gravitate to the hybrid. Then we also looked, of course, at the second choice of parents whose first choice was full online. And similarly to the parents whose first choice was full in school or full in person, a lot of them, over a third, said my second choice is the same as my first choice. In other words, it's online or nothing. And then of course the balance of the rest of them who did indicate a second choice went with the hybrid. Only 2% moved from full online to full in person. So this just shows a graphic representation of the bar charts that we had before, that shows that of the folks who decided to stay with their first choice as their second choice, we had the 7% of the hybrid. We had 3 times that many people who had selected in person who said, no, in person's it. It's my only choice. And online was almost twice that. So again, the in-person and online, the people that prefer the in-person and online were much more committed to those original first choices. So parents were also asked, if you if you chose the online option, would you want it for the entire school year or just until you felt it was safe to return to school? Because obviously that would impact substantially how we would structure an online program. We also asked if if parents would be interested in utilizing Kids Club for the days that their child was not in school under the hybrid option. And the answers to both of those questions gave us some really good information. So first off, online entire year versus until safe. And this is just the parents who chose online for their first choice. And of all the parents, again, about a third of all parents chose online. And of those, about a third indicated that they would want it the entire year, no matter what. They want their child enrolled in an online program the entire school year. The other not quite 2/3 indicated that it was a temporary choice, and that as soon as schools were safe, they would want their child back physically in the school building. So when you do the easy math there, what that represents is about 10% of the total number of students that responded to the survey would want full year. And that's a lot of students. That represents, when you think, 10% of all students that respond, or of all parents that responded, and they represent 4,000 students. So that'd be about 400 students that we would have in an online program for the entire year. That's quite a few. And then, of course, until safe is a bigger number, almost twice that number. And we would need to provide a flexible option for them to be able to move back into the physical classroom when they felt it was safe to do so. Well, interest in Kids Club also is an interesting question, because it really relates to parents' need for childcare, so that they can work and provide for their families, so they can stay employed, keep their jobs. Of the hybrid option, and this was geared towards the hybrid option because that's the folks that you'd have kids in school for a week, and then you'd have a week that kids weren't in school. And the people that chose the hybrid really didn't have that greatest need for childcare. It was less than 20%, so less than 1 in 5 said that they would be interested in our Kids Club program for the week that their children weren't physically in school. But of the parents who chose in person as their first choice, but then gravitated to hybrid as their second choice, the number went way up over 35%. So well over a third indicated that they would be interested in Kids Club or childcare for their students during that off week. And then, of course, the online, and this is not surprising, because if you're thinking of online to begin with, you probably aren't in need of a childcare service. But if they were enrolled instead in the hybrid option, those parents that initially said their first choice was online, 10% said that they would be interested in Kids Club. So we also gave parents an opportunity to share their comments with us, and we separated those out and analyzed those or reviewed those based on what their first choice was. And the full in person, one of the things that they did, there were questions were asked and suggestions were given, but a lot of folks just wanted to express the reason why they chose the option that they did. And in fact, that was most of the responses to the open-ended question, was just people explaining why they felt like that particular option was the best for them. And these are just some examples that are representative. One of the things that folks said, as you can imagine, is that they cannot work and provide for their family if their children aren't in school. And that was a very common comment. Another one was that we had a lot of folks saying, my child has special learning needs, And I just can't see how those would be met online. And in fact, we know that the online schools that are already out there, like Primavera, they're very selective in which students are able to enroll in those programs because they simply cannot provide all of the educational services that are needed, especially for students that have special needs. So that was another big one. Was folks that have children that they simply know that the services that their children needs cannot be provided, at least not at the same level in a distance or online format. And then another thing that a lot of folks brought up is just the fact that they had a chance to try online school this spring. It's not like they have to guess what online school was like. And they know that their children were not successful for a variety of reasons. It could just be learning style. It could be just the personality of the child. It just could be that they need to have that interaction with their peers and with the teacher and face to face. And they also expressed interest and a need for socialization and learning those types of skills that just aren't going to happen when a child is spending some time on a computer at home on a format that isn't person to person. So anyway, those are just kind of the basic explanations or reasons or rationale that parents provided us. With regards to the full online, and again, these are very representative of just examples of what many parents said. But some people recognize the fact that that schools cannot be guaranteed to be virus free, no matter what happens. There's also the fact that students are students, kids are kids, and you can do all the cleaning, you can follow, have all the procedures in place, but getting kids, especially the little ones, to actually follow all of those, good luck, right? And even some of the middle school students might be apt to deviate from the guidelines from time to time. So anyway, those were just simply, look, I don't feel like it's safe, and until I do, my child's not going to go attend school in person. And then the hybrid model. So this was parents who, on the one hand, felt like the virus presents a real safety issue for their students, and they're concerned. And at the same time, they also recognize that there's a real need for in-school, in-person, person-to-person interaction. And for the most part, these were folks that felt like the hybrid was a good compromise between those two opposing needs. Because both of those needs are real and they're both valid. And but they oppose each other, right? The more you're in school, the more you're at risk. The more you're at home, depending on your particular circumstances, more difficult to get a traditional education, but it's safer, right? So at least you hope it is. So these are the people that rather than gravitate to one of those opposing or competing interests or the other, basically preferred a middle road. All right, so conclusions. Well, first off, parents have a very wide and even opposing variety of perceptions, circumstances, and needs. The need to return to work is directly and strongly correlated to their choice of learning options. We simply saw that the online or the hybrid was an option for people that are able to work from home and not for people who aren't. But it isn't just about childcare. It isn't just about work. The fact of the matter is that people experienced online learning last spring, and a lot of them came to the realization that it just was not working for one reason or another for their children. And they want their children, they need their children to get an education, and recognize that for them, it's not going to work if it's all online. Another thing that we came to the conclusion with is that I think it's important to understand is that offering the online options can be independent of offering the in-school options. There are certainly requirements or needs in terms of staffing, but the space requirement, you don't have two different programs competing for the same square footage, for the same space. And so whether you do a hybrid option or an in-person option, you're always able to offer a full online option. And the other conclusion that we came to is the fact that offering both in-person and hybrid models is simply not feasible. I mean, you basically would have two different programs competing for the same space in a school. Additional conclusions. So for the hybrid model, the number of children that would participate in Kids Club would offset to a significant degree. In other words, if you only had hybrid and you didn't have in-school, and the people who would prefer in-school were forced into the hybrid because the in-school was not available, you would have a very significant number of kids in the Kids Club, which to a large extent would offset the benefit of trying to have fewer numbers at the school by having the hybrid model to begin with. In fact, that was actually an observation that some of our parents brought out in their comments to the survey. Another thing that we recognize is that parents who choose full online or full in-person are the most committed to their first choice and are the least likely to accept the alternative model. In fact, we had many who said, if you don't offer the full on-site in-person program, I have to go somewhere else. I don't have a choice. And we also had people who said, if you don't offer the full online option, then I'm going somewhere else. So those were definitely, and it was represented by the data when we asked people for their second choice. And as you saw, so many of those folks indicated that their second choice was still their first choice. And we also saw through the data that parents who chose the hybrid model as their first choice are more likely to accept either the full online or the full in-person models as an alternative than either of those other groups are. The other thing that we found is that there is a relatively large number of parents that have indicated they'll choose the online learning option, and that would significantly reduce the numbers of students attending in person and would actually work to our favor in order to be able to provide social distancing within the schools, even when we have the full in-person, in-classroom option. So some recommendations. Well, first off, we need to provide parents with options and flexibility. And as you know, the proposals that we're going to be sharing with you, that Dr. Sprout will be sharing a little bit, we did come up with four different options that provide quite a bit of flexibility. We also recognize that we should go ahead and proceed with our plans to create the Levine Online Academy for this coming school year. We also need to finalize plans for a distance learning option that provides the flexibility to return to full in-person learning when parents feel it's safe to do so. And we need to provide options for all-day, everyday in-person learning while following the Center for Disease Control or CDC guidelines to the greatest extent feasible. And that is basically an overview of the survey results. If you have, I provided you with a written report, and if you have any questions, be happy to do my best to answer those.
Any questions? Thank you, Dr.
I can't hear Fern.
Got it. Okay, sorry. Okay,
Thank you.
going back to the data about the online, what was the age breakdown of parents who wanted online only? The grade breakdown. Did we have that?
No, we don't.
Okay.
We don't have the age breakdown.
Or grade? Grade.
I'm sorry. We have the grade breakdown. Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
was
So
that
Yeah, so you've got a copy of that, and I'll bring that. But let's see. I guess we're already off of that.
I'm sorry.
So it's the second page of your report at the bottom. Oh, no, I'm sorry, that's respondents. Okay, so it's the fifth page. It looks like this.
Got it.
Okay, and as you can see, the online interest in online was consistent across all grade levels. We had a couple, fourth grade and sixth grade, that dipped lower, but I'm sure that those are just anomalies. You know, when you look at kindergarten or preschool, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, I mean, you could almost draw a straight line across those. Again, the anomaly at fourth grade, and then back up at fifth grade, back down at sixth grade, and then back up at seventh and eighth grade. But for the most part, except for those two anomalies in fourth and sixth grade, you could almost draw a straight line across that. So very, very even across the grade levels, the interest in online.
Okay. Thank you.
Excuse me, Bill, can I get that report? I don't have one here.
Yes, you can.
Yeah,
Oh,
thank
okay. You bet.
you. Thanks.
And if someone could email me that too, that would be helpful, since I was not able to attend in person. I have another board meeting tonight at 6:30. I had a chance to speak with Dr. Johnson a little bit earlier, but part of what I shared with him was just, and I've said it before, and I know we all know this, the incredible time, effort, energy, the thought process behind thinking of all of these options, the background noise that you hear, and all of the feedback and input, and sort of tuning all of that out to come to a very clear and cohesive plan and options is it's beyond appreciated. There's not the right word for it. I don't know what that word is, but we'll go with appreciated for now. I understand that we will not likely be able to do something that's workable for everybody, but I think that having these really four options will, getting to that, I think that makes people happy in terms of what we're seeing with these results. And so to take the time to think through these questions, to analyze that feedback, because it's more than just about putting a pie chart together or whatever. It's really understanding what that meant, what people were really saying. This was incredibly clear. Thank you for everyone who worked on it.
Well, you're very welcome, and it was a little bit of work, and we would like to provide, if it was possible, we would like to meet everyone's individual needs and desires, but resources are limited, and we have to do what we know is going to work and what's doable within the resources that we have. That includes the buses and bus drivers that we have. It includes the square footage and the numbers of classrooms that we have. It includes the staffing and the number of teachers that we have. And we can only spread that so thin. So frankly, it's just impossible to provide to be everything to everybody. And at the same time, we know that some people are going to be disappointed that their specific needs weren't the ones that weren't best met by the options. But the reality is that no matter which option we had gone with, somebody would have been in that situation, and we recognize that, and we certainly want to do the best we can to meet people's needs, and at the same time recognize that our resources are limited.
All right, any other additional comments or questions? All right, we're going to go ahead and move to the next item. Dr. Sprout.
All right, well, thank you, President Anderson, governing board members, and Dr. Johnson. Would like to say first, thank you to the board for your support during this time. And this is a very challenging and turbulent time, and we appreciate the support of each one of you. A special thanks to Dr. Johnson, who, if you're wondering what he's doing in his last few days here as superintendent, he is processing survey data, as you can tell, and does a great job. That's one of his many skills from a past career, and we deeply appreciate everything Dr. Johnson has done with the data. I'd also like to thank our executive team, our administrators, our teachers for their hard work, as Ms. Berrigan said, to put this to get us to the point of presenting these options to you for the next school year. And parents, we also appreciate your input on this survey as well. To review, we have 5 different committees that are working in our reopening schools task force: learning, student safety, our support services, HR, and communications teams. I am very excited. I just had a chance to get caught up with our learning committee. They are meeting in various forms almost daily right now to have us prepared to provide the best possible instruction for our students. And all of our other committees are working very, very hard to have us ready for August 3rd. In fact, our commitments since we started this process is the safety of our staff and students and our community, that we provide an outstanding learning and instructional environment for our students and for our teachers to teach in, that we care for our students and their social and emotional wellness. And again, at this time, that we provide options for parents. So we are presenting to you, Governing Board, tonight 4 options for reopening schools. The first is what we are calling the Levine Online Academy, which is our full year online learning. I'll describe these in just a moment. What we're calling our flexible distance learning, where students begin the year online and have an opportunity to transition to on-site instruction, our daily on-site learning, and our option for the opening of Estrella Foothills Global Academy. And I just wanted to note that we are going to be, of course, this is a very fluid situation in the world of the COVID pandemic, and we will continue to work with local, state, and federal agencies to make sure that we have a program that is safe for our students and staff. So let's talk about our first option, the Levine Online Academy. This would be an option for parents who would like to have their students, not only this year, but into the future, an online option for their students for the entire school year. This is not just for our COVID era, but something that we would continue next year and the years to come. It's for kindergarten through 8th grade students. They will attend every school every day through an online platform taught by our teachers. And we are going to be selecting teachers that are really the best of the best for online instruction for this program. We will be using our curriculum, and we will have live and recorded instruction. Each student will be provided a district-issued Chromebook, and the availability of this program will also be dependent upon our enrollment. So we are, in a moment, I'll be talking about what that means, but we will be giving parents an opportunity to select one of these 4 options for their child or children. Our second option is what we're calling our flexible distance learning option. This is an option where students begin the school year online and have again, being taught by our teachers through our online platforms, and have an opportunity to transition into on-site learning during after the first quarter. Again, they will be taught using the same curriculum that all of our other students receive. They will again have a district-issued Chromebook, and that is our flexible distance learning option. Our third option is what we're calling daily on-site learning. This will be for pre-K through 8th grade students. They will attend school every day on a campus in person. We will work to, and I'll talk more about this, to implement as much of the CDC guidance as feasible to keep our campuses safe for them. We will be maximizing distance between desks and also providing transportation to qualifying families. This year, we will be requiring registration for parents for transportation, just so we know what we are picking up and dropping off every day. Now, as you know, we are opening a beautiful new school over on 55th Avenue and Carver, the Estrella Foothills Global Academy. It will be an international baccalaureate school. We're starting in 5th and 6th grades this year. It is going to open this year in K through 6. This is another option for our parents that they parents you would want to consider. It's going to be an outstanding school. We have a great staff, great leadership at that campus in place and ready to go. We have 2 classrooms in every grade level, K through 6, and we are going to cap our enrollment in each classroom at 18 students. Parents in this next year at EFGA will be required to provide to transport their children to and from school. There will not be a bus transportation to EFGA. We will begin accepting registration starting tomorrow morning. And parents, if you're out there and you've already registered for EFGA and you're wondering what does this mean for you, as long as you like this option of every day with a 18 student cap, you will have priority enrollment if you've already registered. All of our options offer a special area class every day to our students, no matter which one of the 4 that you are in. Social emotional support. We have a curriculum that we will be using next year for that. Second step, throughout in every campus and every option, they will receive small group support and interventions as needed. Every option will provide special education service as needed. For parents of self-contained students, by the way, we will be communicating to you either later today or early tomorrow morning. We do expect that to be an all-day, everyday option for those who are medically able. And of course, in Levine, every student has a Chromebook. We are still got a lot of things that we're planning for. One is what will, just in case you're wondering, what will recess look like for our on-campus option? And also, what does after-school tutoring and activities after school look like? As you can imagine, we will have the opportunity to do things virtually for those students who are online and in person, possibly for those who are at school every day. More information to come. So we will be sending out tomorrow morning a commitment form to all of our parents that so that they can indicate their choices for their child or children for the first quarter. This form is due on June 28th, which is this Sunday, and we will begin contacting parents who have not responded just so we can get as many responses as possible. We will also be asking parents for any, if appropriate, information on how they are going to transport their child to school, or if they are asking for transportation, what child nutrition. We will be providing child nutrition. We hope it looks very strongly that we will be able to provide child nutrition to online students. We're working through that right now. And then their kids, what are their desires with respect to Kids Club? With respect to staffing, we also surveyed our teachers, and we had a huge response from our teachers. And I would just like to say to any teacher that's listening right now, thank you so much for your responses and your thoughtful comments. We have a wonderful teaching staff, and they are ready to go. We have a good mixture of teachers that are ready to go online, ready to go in person, teachers that are saying, whatever you need me to do, I will do it. And we greatly appreciate the teachers of this district. And they're ready to, as Dr. Johnson, I think, said earlier, ready to rock and roll. So thank you to all of our teachers and to the rest of our staff. This first quarter is going to require a huge level of flexibility. And I have no doubt that the 800 plus employees of this school district are going to come through for the students in this community. It is going to require flexibility. That's our word. But I've had an opportunity for the last 7 years to watch this staff take care of business, and I have no doubt that we are going to be a model for other districts to follow. And that's because of our staff and their dedication. I also, one of the very important parts for any parents that are listening right now is the completion of these commitment forms, because based on those, in early July, we will begin figuring out what teachers are going to be doing what based on these commitment forms. A couple updates for you from the previous governing board meeting. The first is based on Maricopa County and City of Phoenix guidelines, and to provide extra safety for those parents or students and staff that will be on campus at the beginning of the school year will be required to wear cloth face coverings. We are also ordering face shields for all of our employees, which will help with certain types of instruction where students need to be able to see the mouth of their teacher and it's not covered up by a face covering. And we've also made the decision with respect to our tuition-based preschool to cap those classes at 18 students.
16.
16, sorry. Thank you, Ms. Sanborn. I wanted to, especially for those parents that are listening in today, we did present this to the governing board and they have graciously agreed to allow me to present this again. Some of the measures that we are taking to safely open our schools. And so these are ways that we are looking to reduce the spread of COVID-19 on our campuses. First of all, we are asking all of our parents and staff members that before you come to school, the self-screening is done on our students and our staff, and that if anyone has any signs or symptoms of illness, that they stay home. We will be doing temperature checks of students and staff when they arrive on campus. We will be emphasizing, obviously, hand hygiene and respiratory etiquette with our students and staff, cloth face coverings, and signage and messaging throughout our campus to help us to stay on track with respect to safe behaviors. Also, with respect to physical distancing, another very important aspect of reducing the spread, we will be maximizing the spacing between desks. We met with Maricopa County a few weeks ago, and they put a very, very heavy emphasis on students facing forward, students staying in a cohort, staying together, not traveling around the campus a lot. We will have special area classes with most likely the exception of PE in their homeroom. We are installing physical barriers as needed. And also we have physical guides. In other words, stand here, to promote physical distancing. We're also looking at possibly what are some ways that we can increase distancing by using our cafeterias and gyms. Again, parents, most likely we're expecting that more parents will be transporting their students. So we are considering a lengthened or staggered starting time, not changing the starting time of schools, but lengthening the period for pickup and drop off. And also once school starts, we will be on patrol to reduce and identify high congestion areas. Other changes to reduce the spread at the beginning of this school year will be restrictions on volunteering and visitors on the campus. And we will not be having live field trips. We will have the opportunity for virtual field trips, obviously. And we are most likely canceling intramurals for the fall with the hope of reopening in the winter and spring. Our campuses will be cleaned and disinfected on a regular basis. high touch surfaces throughout the day. We have a cleaning plan for disinfecting students' desks and high touch surfaces every night with our cleaners. And we've also purchased Clorox 360 machines and disinfectant dispensers to use on our campuses and on our buses. These machines, these Clorox 360s, will allow us to disinfect an entire campus overnight. Another important way to maintain a healthy environment is to reduce the sharing of materials. Once again, all of our students will have their own Chromebooks, text. We will, ensure that they are keeping their personal items separate from others. Their desks will be their desks. We again do not expect a lot of movement between classrooms. Our motto next year will be "Don't infect, do a self-check." The best way to reduce the spread of COVID-19 is to not come to school or work if you are not feeling well. When students are at the bus stop, we will have rules for how our bus stops should look, and our bus drivers will do visual checks of our students, and all students will be wearing face coverings, and staff. And then once our students and staff arrive on campus, we will do a visual and temperature check. And we will, on an ongoing basis, monitor the health of our community. We will consult with local authorities as needed. Any employees or families that are struggling, we will be working with them. And so we will be ongoing, very, very strong ongoing monitoring also of our student and employee absences. For students that are at risk, we know that we have some students that are medically fragile, that need their IEP requirements met. Our student services team is the best in the business, and they are preparing for the opening of school for our special needs students. We also have the homebound education option, and we can also, for students that need to be home for illness, we have online opportunities for those students, or those students who just aren't able to come to school due to medical needs. Our student services, I just want to emphasize, we've gotten a lot of questions from parents about, and our staff, regarding caring for our special education students. And I met with our executive director this morning. They are ready, and getting ready. And it's a great team. We also have staff that are at risk, and we will be working with those staff. Our HR department will be taking care of them, working on any accommodation plans that need to occur, any leave of absences. And as I said at our last meeting, there are special protections under the First Family Coronavirus Response Act for our employees that are dealing with COVID-related issues. We will be taking care of our employees during the and be very focused on their health. Once again, we will be training our students and staff through handbooks, guides, signage. We have a PBIS system that will be rewarding and reinforcing positive behaviors in the midst of this COVID era. And we have heard, and we are, Levine Online Education 2.0 is going to be a vast improvement over 1.0. We were, in a very short period of time, forced to go completely online, and our staff and our leadership did their absolute best to provide the best to parents. It is going to look so much better this year as we open our schools online, and they're already preparing for that, our learning committee. And so I would be very comfortable putting my own child in our online program. And I'm excited to see how that's going to work out for parents who select online instruction. We do know that there's a strong possibility that at some point we're going to have a student or staff member who becomes sick. We have protocols for that, and obviously immediate separation from other employees and students, and then working through our protocols as to next steps, including working with local authorities. Finally, almost finally, with respect to communication, we have a return to Levine web page. I'm not sure if I can click on that or if, but if you click on that, it takes you to our Return to Levine web page. Thank you, Butch. And there you will see that page again. Parents, employees, you can go to there, and then if we back out of that, you can. We also have a safety FAQs link that is all of the information I just presented to the governing board. So our parents know that these pages will be updated regularly as staff. We also have a new email address if parents or staff have any questions regarding the opening of schools. Those are those two email addresses right there. Our child nutrition team is developing plans for breakfast and lunch service. Once again, we will be using very safe methods for serving our students their meals, including individually plated and pre-packed meals. We are focused on students that have food allergies and making sure that they are safe during this different time of food service. Also, we are developing plans for those students who are using the online options. And our team does a great job with food handling and safety protocols. We will also, with cloth face coverings being implemented, have protocols for removal of cloth face coverings. A huge thanks to our child nutrition team who continues to serve. If you haven't seen what they serve it is incredible what they are providing to our community right now. So thank you to them. And transportation, I've hit this already, but we will be having one student. Our current plan is one student per seat. Family members required to sit together. Students will be required when on the bus to have cloth face coverings. There will be registration to ride, and we will be sanitizing, disinfecting our buses every day. Any questions?
Is someone asking a question? I can't hear.
Fern is going to ask a question, but she's unmuting.
Got it.
I have several. So
There she goes.
thank you so much for all of the information. And obviously, if a person has somebody at home who's sick or at risk, sending their child to school, there is no way as a school that we can protect that child 100% and guarantee that they are not going to take something home to somebody. So, going with that, first of all, I hope we're getting rid of perfect attendance awards.
That's a very good question, Ms. Ward. Yes, we are. We are not going to be pushing perfect attendance next year for our staff or for our students. What we will be pressing is if you if you're demonstrating any symptoms, if you have that fever of over 100.4, do not come to school. And so, yes.
Okay. And then one of the questions I saw that was asked is that if we have to quarantine, you said that the teachers will be taken care of, but also if a child comes up sick in the class, do we have to shut down the classroom or?
Our first action will be to remove the student from the classroom and get that student home. And then once again, it will be up to analyzing the situation as to where we go from there. But what I can guarantee, we're dealing with these situations now. With employees or students, employees that have contracted COVID. Each one of those are somewhat of an individual situation, but we would be working within with our district nurses, with local health authorities to determine next steps for that classroom and for the campus as a whole.
I'm picturing if we have to quarantine that class for 2 weeks, are those children going to be able to switch to online learning, even though, anyhow?
Yes, they would.
Okay.
We will be equipped to go to online learning if we need to. There is different guidance right now. Again, we would be working with local health authorities. I think part of it it's going to be determinations and days that schools need to be shut down, or all of that is going to be determined again by us working with local health authorities to do what is safe for the campus community. So there is a possibility that we will be shutting down campuses. And if we do, then we will switch over to online learning for those students.
Okay, thank you.
I have a couple of super specific questions. One, are we going to be offering an extended day at Estrella Foothills Global Academy? Do we know yet?
Kids Club.
Yeah.
I believe we would be. If there's interest, we would be offering Kids Club. I'll get back to you on that, but I would expect that we are.
Okay, my apologies for the surprise question. It just occurred to me when the presentation was happening. And then I think I heard a piece and just want to clarify. It sounded like, I think it said something about data and that we were gathering more data for food service, transportation, and a couple of pieces. Does that mean we're surveying parents some specific questions about like food service and transportation? Is that what that meant?
No, what it means is that our child nutrition department is looking at different funding models for providing meals for students that are going to school online.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And that is another one that we will get back to the board on. I would hope that at our meeting in July that we would have some more clarity on that.
Yeah. Those were the only two questions I have. I just want to say again, yet another presentation that was extremely clear and extremely concise in a world where we are not getting a lot of clear and concise information. And I don't fault, federal, state, city, county people for that. This is new to everybody. And as I've said before, I like the flexibility of the local control that they are allowing us so that we can do what's in the best interest of our community that is different than other communities. But it is extremely important now that we're here at our local level to be able to provide this clear and concise information to our community, to our staff, to our students. And it makes me ever as proud that this is the district that I live in and that we have the team and the staff that are there. And I would recommend that all of the superintendents in the state, and frankly, in the entire US, watch both Dr. Johnson and Dr. Sprout's presentation as a model example for how they should be communicating this information. I wholeheartedly believe that. I am so pleased with what you guys have presented.
And I would ditto that, what Jill said. It's definitely clear you guys have spent a lot of time to think about things, put things in place. I know it's not an easy task. I'm sure there were a lot of sleepless hours. So I do appreciate the information presented the way it was. And I know that things are probably still going to change down the road. So flexibility is the key word. So we'll just keep moving at that. Any additional questions? All right, so it is recommended the governing board review and approve the options recommended by district administration for the reopening of schools for the 2021 school year and authorize the superintendent to make revisions as appropriate to comply with additional guidance and direction from health and government officials.
I happily make that motion.
Second.
Okay, any additional discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, it looks like a regular meeting of the governing board will be held on July 9th, 2020. The meeting will be held at 4 p.m. unless otherwise posted in the Levine Education Center. Yes. Absolutely.
Well, many of you are aware that this isn't Isaac's first time on the governing board.
I'm so sorry to interrupt if you're speaking. I can't hear. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mrs. Berrigan. I was muted and I didn't even know it.
Sorry.
No, thank you. So I think many of you are aware of the fact that this is not Isaac's first time on the governing board. That I think even before I came to work here in Levine School District, you had served some time on the governing board. And then again, after I was here, he served on the board. And as became my custom, when he finished that term and didn't come back at that particular time, I presented him with a original watercolor painting painted by yours truly. And I remember it wasn't too long after that Mrs. Sanborn was contemplating whether or not she should run for another term on the governing board. And Mrs. Sanborn made the comment, well, there is one big disadvantage to getting reelected. I won't get a painting from Dr. Johnson. Do you remember that, Mrs. Sanborn?
Yeah.
So I decided that the fact that I'm retiring shouldn't mean that you get cheated out of a painting.
Okay.
That's beautiful.
Oh, great.
Oh, that's
Beautiful. Oh, thank you.
That's so great.
Oh, it's already on. Oh my gosh, thank you.
Oh, did we all get
Nice.
one?
Thank you. I love it.
I want to see mine.
Beautiful.
You should have
I
been
was
here,
about
Jill.
to be really upset that Susan got one and I didn't.
And Mrs.
Can I
Berrigan,
turn
don't-
it this way? Can you see it?
They're showing them to me. I can see them on the screen. Is
Yeah.
this last one mine? This one here?
This
the
one's
last-
mine.
yes, Mrs. Berrigan, there is one for you.
Okay, I love
You
it.
should have been here, Jill.
Very funny. Oh,
Wow.
Dr. Johnson, that is very thoughtful and very
Yeah.
generous of you.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Well, you're very welcome. And I can't begin to express how grateful I am to each of you for the unwavering support and leadership that you have provided. My success is simply made possible because of that. So thank you to each and every one of you.
No, thank you. And at least we got to have one more board meeting with you before it was your last. So get one more in there before you go. All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Johnson.
Bill.
That's very nice of
Thank
you. All right. Now we need a motion of adjournment.
So moved.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody. Have a
Goodbye,
nice
Jill.
night.
Bye.